I left some folks I cared about once before, and it has never sat right with me. I gotta take care of Mo.
Fear the Walking Dead, Season 7, episode titled The Raft. I don't remember the number of the episode. This episode is a surprising step up from the previous episodes, and I think that's because more stuff happens. Like, Fear the Walking Dead is falling into the common Walking Dead trope of not much happening, them stretching out the plot just to fill 16 episodes, which normally I don't mind. Like, I love The Walking Dead. I'm one of the people who justifies its long runtime. I'm one of the people who justify the 16-episode seasons. I'm one of the people who defend filler episodes all the time. And while there's still content and quality and stuff to be said and stuff to be seen in these filler episodes, this season of Fear the Walking Dead, I'm starting to notice it in a more negative way than I normally do. This episode focuses on two different plot lines happening simultaneously, and they interconnect with each other. And that is Dwight and Sherry. We finally get an episode that focuses around Dwight and Sherry, two of my favorite characters in Fear the Walking Dead. And I think that's one of the main reasons that this episode is, in my mind, better than a lot of previous episodes. It's that Dwight and Sherry are such strong characters, and their arc is so strong, and their dynamic together is so strong, and their place in the universe and how they're balancing on a very thin line of who they are and who they want to be and who they don't want to be, and how those themes interweave with the plot happening. It's just super engaging. No matter where you put them, no matter what plot you put them in, just because of who they are, it makes it more interesting in my opinion. And the other plot happening is Morgan. Morgan is leading all of the walkers away from Strand's moat surrounding his tower. And he's working with Dwight and Sherry to lead the walkers away. And when the walkers are gone, they can finally infiltrate Strand's tower and take over. That's the plan, at least. My biggest takeaway for this episode, again, is Dwight and Sherry. Their dynamic is really, really, really good. I always liked Sherry. This episode, I think she gets even better than she already has been. And you find out some things about her. You find out some things about Dwight and their relationship together and how it is going forward. And it's really exciting to see. Spoiler alert, if you have not figured out already, this video is going to be full of spoilers. So if you've managed to get this far and you don't want to be spoiled even more, go back, watch the episode, and then come back and watch this. Dwight and Sherry lead the walkers into the bunker that Alicia was trapped in. And then they get trapped in the tunnels. Sherry tells Dwight before this that she thinks she is, but it's finally confirmed when they are trapped in those sewers, in those tunnels, that Sherry is indeed pregnant. I like this a lot because of the same reasons that I just mentioned about why I like Sherry and Dwight so much and why I like their arcs so much. This just increases that. It enhances that. It makes their motivations that they already had, their reason for not wanting to be someone and their reason for wanting to be someone else, even stronger. I feel like adding a pregnancy into their relationship just elevates, again, everything they've already been feeling, everything they've already been wanting. My biggest negative takeaway from this episode, it's something that a lot of you commented on, it's a big critique I see this season, and I agree, and that's Wes. Wes is just becoming a villain for the sake of being a villain. I know he gave a motivation in this episode. His brother, he should have followed his brother. He doesn't think Morgan and his group even believe in their own philosophy. It makes sense to an extent if it was written better. I just feel like the way they're writing Wes and the way they're writing his turn into villainy is just very lazy. And it's kind of lame too, like unrealistic in my opinion, how he's like leading bad guys, how he's being a dominant leading force, hunting down Dwight and Sherry and looking for Mo. Yet when he was part of Morgan's group, he was just always in the background. He didn't really do anything on his own. I mean, he did sometimes, but very infrequently. So it's just weird that now that he's a villain, that he's like the big dog on the playing field. And this episode really did something that annoyed me. There's a scene where Wes runs after Dwight and tackles him. And they get in a physical altercation, but you don't see any of it. It cuts away immediately, and then we see Dwight, and he's just like, oh, I slowed down Wes. And then we see Wes, and he's just on his own, doing his own thing, hunting them down again. I would have loved to see them fight. I would have loved to see a Wes-Dwight fight. I would have loved to have that intensity, that emotion, them fighting, them having respect for each other, but like being on opposite sides, so they have to fight each other. It just would have been really cool because they're two characters that aren't really connected. They're two characters that don't really have anything to do with each other. At the very end of this episode, Morgan takes Mo and he gets on the raft that Sherry was gonna let Dwight escape on. And he takes Mo and he leaves the group behind. And he does this because that's what Grace wanted. That's what Grace asked him to do, was to take Mo far, far away from what was happening. I just don't really know how I feel about this. Like, I respect Morgan for doing this. It's believable. You know what I mean? Morgan is now a father, in a sense. And he's doing things differently. He's making different choices than he normally would have done. We're seeing a very different Morgan from the Savior War, where he would just run into the outposts and kill everybody because he doesn't die. die. We're now seeing a Morgan who has this baby, and he's putting this above everything else, and he's leaving behind those he loves, and he's leaving behind the war that he is essentially the main part of. And he says it doesn't sit right with him. He mentions he left people behind before. He mentions it never sat right with him. He mentions he doesn't want to do it again. But yet he has his child to look over, and he's leaving. And he's just letting them do it on his own while he protects his child. I respect that. I like it. I just am very curious how they're going to integrate him back into this plot line. And I hope they do, because it just feels like it would be an unsatisfying ending to what this season has built up to. And that's something Fear the Walking Dead does frequently, unfortunately. It's one of my biggest critiques with Fear the Walking Dead. It's that every season, and they did this even in the Dave Erickson era, it's not only limited to since season 4 and onward, but Fear the Walking Dead, it's like every season they build towards something, and then very, very quickly it's forgotten and they're on to something else. Now, it's not the biggest fault in the whole world, because their philosophies and their morals and who they are and their mission and their goal carries on with them no matter where they are, no matter what their goal is, no matter what home they're trying to make their home. But it's kind of frustrating as a viewer that every single time they spend a countless number of episodes building up to something, and then it's just forgotten. It's just gone after that. And I can't help but feel that's going to be the case in this season. Like, I feel like they're building up to the tower and they're fighting for the tower, but I would wager money come season 8, the tower is not even going to be relevant. The tower is not even going to be part of the season or the series or important to them. They just did it with the submarine this episode. Like, the submarine has been a big focal point. And I'm not saying I'm a fan of the submarine, but it just seems like, I guess, lazy writing that just suddenly radiation is seeking into it so they can't be there anymore, hence forcing the characters to have to fight Strand now. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you thought about it. I'm sure more of you are going to like it than you've been liking the previous few episodes. I like this season. It's not my favorite. It's not the worst, though. I am very happy that this episode is better than it has been. I'm sure next episode is going to be really, really great. Anyway, subscribe to my channel if you like this video. I talk about everything The Walking Dead related. I talk about every episode of every series within The Walking Dead universe. I do other TV show discussions. I talk about Barry. I talk about Marvel stuff. I'm going to be talking about Star Wars stuff when that comes out. I do trailer reactions. I do a lot of horror stuff. Horror is going to be a big central part of this page going forward. Anyway, I hope you join me. I hope you subscribe.